Hi everyone, thought it's about time I did another video showing some of the things I've been working on for my Barons War collection. Since the last video I've made some progress on quite a few models, dotted in with a few commissions here and there. So I thought I'd get the camera out and give you a quick overview of exactly what I've been working on. So this first batch you can see here are some foot sergeants armed with hand weapons. So I got these, I think it was for Christmas last year. I've slowly been working through painting these up along with some of the Outremer things that I got. I'm really chuffed with how these have turned out, and I'm really enjoying how the shields are looking now. So much so that I've actually gone and ripped the shields off some of my previous models and started to repaint them to get them sort of like the aesthetic to match. I'm enjoying the sort of like the chipping effects that I'm managing to get, sort of like the scratches and the weathering I'm getting with the dark brown splodges. I think I finally got the technique that I enjoy using. So I'm revamping some of the old shields to make them match a bit more. But this is a really nice set to paint. I'm not sure which I would say is my favourite. I do really like this guy. For me, this is synonymous with the Barons War range because this model, I think, was one of the first shots that they released when the original Kickstarter came out. It's also, I think, on maybe the third page of the rulebook, they've got a version of this guy painted, and he just looks incredible. It's a really nice model, as they all are, really, to be honest. Nice to paint up. They're either, like with this guy, a lot of cloth, or, for example, this guy here's got a padded gambeson on. But again, neither of them are particularly hard to paint, but they're nice and they look effective, especially when you line them up. And so these will go in with my my sergeants who are armed with falchions or spears. When I play a game of Barons War, whilst the group does have to be equipped with the same weapon, sometimes I mix them up simply because I don't have enough models of either type. I'm fairly confident that soon that won't be a problem given how many models I've painted, but it adds a little bit of variety. But strictly in game terms, they all need to be equipped with the same. So if I was to say they had swords, like hand weapons, swords, or falchions, they'd all have to have the same type. But yeah, they're very nice. So as well as those, I've also recently finished my first group of crossbowmen. So these are all footsword miniatures, all sculpted by Paul Hicks, which is, I think they're some of the nicest, well, they are the nicest medieval miniatures I've painted. So we've got a handful here with sort of like some armour on. So these guys, for example, got mail coifs and helmets. He's got, see him there, padded gambeson. They're all equipped with swords as well. And then you've got some who are a bit more basic. So they've got, let's move on closer. You can see them. They're just sort of like they've got a helmet. They've got, this guy here's got a gambeson. Other than that, they're wearing their regular tunics. Again, really, because these have so much cloth on them, I tend to pick one colour and just paint the entire tunic or whatever it is in that colour. For some of the sergeants I've done before, I've done sort of like either halved or quartered. I mainly reserve that for the knights because in my mind that would be more expensive, sort of like tailor made equipment. So for this I've just gone for normal muted colours that you might expect to find. So nice to have a bunch of crossbowmen. I have used them in a game, and unfortunately, through no fault of their own, they were useless. The general in charge, me, decided to run them into a more favourable position. Unfortunately, though, that position was right in line of some, I think they're regular level bowmen, and so they, as soon as they got into position, they were hit with bow fire, and then they just couldn't keep up because they just kept getting hit and hit and hit and hit. So they ended up being pretty useless. But looking at their rules, looking at how they work, they look like they should be really good. And if you can get them at short range with male armed troops, it can be devastating. So I think I need to sort of like play around with them again and see how they fit into a list, and possibly, you know, rethink my tactics. So those are what I've been working, what I've completed from Footsore. I went to the War Games show, the War Games Association Reading. They held a show in November at Farnborough International Exhibition Centre, and I picked up a few things there, a few Barons War bits and pieces. I picked up a group of spears, so I've got some additional spearmen, and I picked up some mounted sergeants. But just like as a comment, I can't believe how good Warfare was. Now, I went to Warfare, I've only been once before, and that was back in 2017, and it was at some dingy, dank, horrible leisure centre on the outskirts of Reading, where parking was minimal. There was no space at all for the exhibition. I remember I went with a friend of mine, and my partner and my newborn daughter came as well at the same time, and there was no room to move between the stalls. Everything was crowded, everything was cramped. It wasn't a particularly nice experience. Fortunately, she got in for free because it was quite obvious she didn't want to be there. But in comparison, the exhibition centre they were at, we went on the Sunday, so it was a bit quieter than I've seen pictures and videos from the Saturday. It was a breath of fresh air. Parking, there was tons. It's right next to Farnborough Airport, so there is a huge car park. The exhibition centre is massive. I think they might have used up perhaps a quarter of the total available space. So they were able to spread out. There was plenty of space between the stalls. The stalls were well stocked. They seemed to have lots of stuff there still, even though they'd been trading on the Saturday as well. And yeah, I mean, I personally, I preferred it to Salute. As much as I like Salute, it's about an hour and a half drive for me to get to Salute, whereas Warfare, Farnborough, is 20 minutes down the road. So got up, went for breakfast, drove down to Warfare, spent a couple of hours there, drove back. I was back by sort of like 5 p.m. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. And it was nice as well to see there were two stalls. So one was a Sarissa Precision, and then the other one, I can't remember the name of it. It's going to bug me, but both of them had Barons War metal packs in stock. Now, obviously, the Sarissa stand was selling them for the same price you'd get them on the website. The other one, which I want to say was something like Sheppy models or something like that. I can't remember what they were. Sorry, but they were selling them obviously with the discount that you'd normally get through a third-party seller. The only sort of like minor complaint I had, and this might have been the fact that we went on the Sunday rather than the Saturday, is that the majority of what was there were character packs. So I would have liked to be able to pick up some more sort of general foot troops or mounted troops, but they didn't seem to have much of that. It was mainly sort of like, you know, different characters and everything. But I mean, that wasn't a problem. I mean, Christmas has come up, so I'll be doing a separate video to show you what I got for Christmas. So I have no worries from that perspective of what I've got on the table to get done this year. So that's the Footsore stuff. What I want to show you now is some 3D printed stuff that I've done. These are for the Barons War as well, and they just sort of like fill in some of the gaps in the range. So the first couple of things I've got here, these are designed by Medbury Miniatures, and for anyone who is a fan of the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth strategy battle game, and if you own a 3D printer or if you've seen any of the third-party prints available, Andrew Medbury, the guy who designs these, is sort of like, he's almost the go-to for a lot of Lord of the Rings things. But he's also been dabbling a bit in sort of like the Scottish wars against, so you kind of Robert the Bruce, William Wallace, that sort of era. So whilst these are slightly later than Barons War period, If you overlook a couple of sort of like slight differences in the armor, they're good enough. They're essentially the same. So I think what we've got here is we've got Andrew Moray, and I think this is William Wallace, I think. But I've painted these up as sort of like, you know, generic barons that can be used during the Barons' War. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be using these guys for a bit of a narrative campaign I've been working on. But you can see, I mean, for anyone who's been living under a rock when it comes to 3D prints, the amount of detail you can get on these models is absolutely insane. So I really, for these ones as well, certainly for the Medbury models, I really like how he does his chainmail. Now, you compare this to a metal model, the chainmail you'd get on a metal model. Let's see if I got one to hand. For example, here, this is a good example actually of chainmail, but it's perfect. It's almost flawless. The detail you've got on the horse, all over the horse. We don't get any spots where you might do on a, for example, picking up a metal model here. When you get into crevices like in the front here, or you get to the bottom at the back, or even in the gaps between the comparison, metal can kind of lose some of the detail, whereas with 3D prints you don't at all. Now, the difference for these, which I suppose stands out for anyone who is up to speed on medieval armour, which I'm not, obviously, is these shoulder pauldrons. I think they're a little bit later than Barons' War period. As I understand it, in Barons' War they were mainly wearing mail, and any sort of plate beyond a helmet was virtually non-existent. But I mean, look at the pose on that. That's a brilliant pose. And this one as well. Again, very similar details on the horse. Nice detail on the helmet. I think again the helmet's a bit too modern for Barons' War, but these two characters fit in very nicely. Now what I have done is, rather than using the shields, 3D printed shields, I've used regular Barons' War metal shields just to make them scale a bit better with the models I've currently got. But these are going to be two characters that I've been working on. But again, amazing models, and they come out perfectly. I'm using a printer which is 4 years old, so it's actually I use the Elegoo Mars Pro, which was new in 2020, and they're now on the Mars 5 Ultra or Mars 5. Either way, the technology is coming along so quickly that you could print these in half the time it took me, and these I think were about 6 hours total. So that's some of those. For general sort of like purposes, I've printed archers. These are from Medbury Miniatures. He does a range of sort of like, again, these are slightly later. Some of these are more 100 Years' War, but there's some regular sort of like peasant bowmen there as well that I'll be mixing in. So these will just bulk out some of my archer units again a bit more, fit in as sort of like outlaws or ruffians, but they're very much kind of like work in progress. One thing that I do worry about with 3D prints is on the bows and the spears, they can be quite fragile, so you have to take care not to snap them, and that's why these next couple of miniatures worry me quite a bit. So these guys are for my Outremer force. So these are designed by Wargames Atlantic for their digital range. So Wargames Atlantic, who are now well and truly in the Barons' War frame with their plastic sets. They've got obviously, of course, their plastic knights, their plastic levy, and then coming soon they've got the plastic foot sergeants, and mounted knights. An interesting anecdote, speaking at the Warfare show to the guy at the Sarissa Precision stand, he said that they'd be out by Christmas. and obviously they're not. So slight frustration that we're still waiting for a lot of those, but you know, good things come to those who wait, right? So these are 3D printed riders. So these are their Turkic cavalry. So these are sort of like Turkish light horse, which I'll be using for sort of like Seljuk Turks, or just sort of like general mercenary light cavalry. What I like about this set is that you 3D print the riders, but the horses are plastic. So while that can be a bit of a pain in the ass, it's quite nice to have a solid horse, so you know they're not going to snap off at the ankles, which unfortunately for resin prints is always quite an issue. Someone did say in one of the groups that there are resin print horses available in one of the other Wargames Atlantic sets, but for the minute these are the ones I printed, and I quite like that. Like I said, they've got plastic horses. The horse goes together quite nicely. They can be a bit fiddly, but you essentially get the body of the horse, you get the rein, and then you get the head, and all three sort of like stack on top of each other to make the full horse. It means you get a bit of a sort of like, you can get more dynamic poses, and also the reins as well are more realistic rather than some plastic horses. You just get a big chunk of plastic, because of course, well, I can show you an example of what I mean. This isn't plastic, but this obviously is metal. You get the reins are just a big chunk there of metal. So the last one I want to show you, and these are ones that I've finished painting. These again are from the Wargames Atlantic digital range, but these are not part of their, they call it the Age of Chivalry range. These are actually part of their sort of like, I can't remember what it is, but basically the downfall of the Roman Empire, and who comes next sort of historical setting. So these are sort of like Arab spearmen. So I'm going to be using these because there is quite a glaring gap in the Outremer range in the Barons' War Outremer range, in that there are no armoured Muslim foot troops. Now, there is Saracen Arab armoured troops available as part of the Saga range, but to me they don't really fit the aesthetic as well. They're sculpted by someone else. They're obviously older sculpts as well, so they don't really, to me, they don't look like they'd fit in. So these are a sort of like happy medium. They're a multi-part resin kit, so you print them off and glue them together like you would kits off a plastic sprue. It means that I can print as many as I want, and if they break, it doesn't really matter. I've printed 9, I think it is. 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah, 9. Some come with these metal shields. Some come with these more sort of like traditional like teardrop shaped shields. And I've just painted these up to kind of like be a bit more of an elite unit. I've got the regular foot troops, so unarmoured foot troops with spears and with swords, but these are something a bit heavier. They've also got swords as well. I could probably quite easily convert them if I wanted to. Some of the poses, so for example this guy, possibly this one, they would suit holding a sword, so if I wanted to I could do a weapon swap on that. I could possibly even use some 3D modelling software to edit the arm, take the spear out and replace it with a sword. But again, that's probably not something I'm looking to do anytime soon. But yeah, so this is an update on what I've been painting. Quite a mix there. I've done some other bits and pieces for Star Wars Legion, and have I done any Lord of the Rings? I've not. I don't think I've done any Lord of the Rings recently. But some other bits and pieces mixed in as well, just to kind of like keep things fresh. But yeah, I'll do a separate video showing off what Santa bought. There's a lot. I was very lucky. I was definitely on the nice list. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this is an enjoyable video for you all. Might give you some ideas and kind of like Barons War related stuff. I want to do a quick shout out as well for a new channel that I've subscribed to, Swords and Sake. He's kind of inspired me to do some more videos like this. thanks for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like the video, watch out for my next one. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.